Yes, singular. And yes, that's what it is. No, just
It's like we're getting it out.
well, it's working now, got home, but it's this heat. All of a sudden, it's just.
Thank you. Okay.
Did you put the agenda for the 5 o'clock thing?
There we go.
Just see the doc sheets. Yeah, get started.
Check. No, President, we're good. Sorry.
Oh, yeah, I was like, I kept forgetting to take it over here.
I'm thinking, when did I use alcohol? Yeah, I knew I did. I went, did I start a business? Thank you. I got an alcohol refund. I got an alcohol refund. $250. That's a lot of alcohol. All right, where's my pen? All right, are we ready? Well, let's give Susan a minute. All right. What time is it? All right, are we ready, everybody?
Yeah.
Let's do this thing. Ready, Chief? I can't get it. Ready? Y'all ready?
Whatever it is. Yep.
All right. Call this meeting to order. August 1st, 2023, 5 p.m. The agenda is for the budget workshop, and we're going to call it to order. It's 5:07 p.m. Do we do the invocation pledge, or do we skip over that?
Skip down.
Yeah. Consent agenda presentations. Go ahead. Workshop. Oh, here we are, discussion items, number 7A.
Yeah.
Budget workshop, I'm okay, guys.
Okay.
Proposed tax rates and revenues, we're gonna turn it over to Susan and Chief.
Okay, so let's start with the tax rate calculation sheet. It's got the blue on it, the colored packet with the blue in the front. I don't think before, Susan, that this was traditionally shared with y'all. Let me just say it's way too loud. It's gonna throw me off. I'm hearing myself. So I don't think this was shared with y'all previously, prior to Susan being here. But it's a good document for you to understand how the taxes are calculated, because I don't understand it. And Susan has to explain it to me most of the time. But this is the truth and taxation workbook, essentially, that Susan plugs in all of our numbers and how we wind up on our proposed tax rate. So there's the calculations there for you. There's not really much to go over there. If you want to check, or grab the piece of paper with the proposed tax rate on it. It says 2023 governing body summary number 1A at the top. All right, so last year's tax rate was $1.119676. We are proposing a tax rate of 1.0360080. That is a pretty significant reduction in our tax rate. One of the biggest reductions in quite some time. Based off the history sheet that I gave you, I just kind of wanted to do some research. There is a separate tax rate history to kind of go back and show you the timeline. This will be the lowest tax rate that the city of Everman has been able to offer since 2010. So it's a 13-year low, which I think is pretty good. That is the voter approval tax rate as well. So our net taxable value for in the city of Everman went up by $50 million. That's good and bad. It's good in the aspect of it means that we're really improving. It's bad in the aspect of it kind of caps tax rates and really how much the revenue is that comes through. So that is the vote approval rate. We cannot go any higher than that without taking it to the voters, the $3.6080. So that is the tax rate that we are proposing for council to adopt. Any questions on that tax rate? So one thing I think that's important to understand too is it is a good sign in the aspect of our tax rate is going to continue to drop. I think the council, you guys gave us direction a couple of years ago that within 5 years, then the better was within 5 years, he had to do better. And I think we'll be able to beat that within 4 years. So I'm targeting to beat that goal, and we're certainly trying to do everything we can to meet that goal. So that is the proposed tax rate. So with that, now if you'll go to the packet that says City of Everman fiscal year 2024 budget workshop dated for today. You flip over, this packet includes the proposed tax rate, revenues, and expenditures. Again, you're just going to see it highlighted here, the proposed tax rates of the $3. Oh, and the last 5-year tax rate. Look at you putting that on there. Yeah.
Fun.
Yeah, I like it. Here's one thing that's a bit interesting. If you flip over to the next page, average household taxable value comparison. So this is certainly a really significant jump. Our average household taxable value jumped from 112,000 to almost 150,000. That is a pretty significant jump. And these tax numbers do not include the Hannah Ranch subdivision. So I would expect to see that kind of median household average go up when you've got a new subdivision, but this is not including Hannah Ranch. So we're seeing a dramatic increase in home values in Everman. Probably due to the market. We've seen everything that's been going on statewide. Housing values are just going up. So. Did you let me do Zoom? Can you let me again? Maybe you got to accept me. And like kick me out.
Yeah, so that comparison shows that despite the fact that we are reducing the rate significantly, the overall property tax.
We can't hear you.
The overall property tax. Even though we reduce the tax rate significantly, the amount per household is obviously going up, and that is due to the property value of the homes.
You got to keep in mind that there's state legislature out there that I think it sets a cap. You can't tax more than like $2.50. I think it is per 100 valuation. So all that plays into how the tax calculations work. Which I've learned all of this in the last couple of weeks. Next page is just a glossary of the property tax terminology. So if you have any questions about what the words are that are used in all of this, you can certainly reference that glossary. I love that Susan started doing that because there was always questions about what does this mean? What does that mean? And now you've got it right there. Yes, ma'am.
And we only really talk about it once a year.
Yes. Well, I mean, they changed the names up. It used to be called rollback and all that. Now it's voter approval and no new revenue. All right. So then you'll flip over to revenues. Just following that is a revenue of all funds. One thing I want to point out here is we did have to adjust our expenditure budget to be able to match these. Although our tax rate, the tax rate reduction that we're seeing has had an impact on the general fund budget. And the aspect of it, we expected to collect about an additional $160,000 over a year prior. So we're not expecting a whole lot more revenue this year. So we had to be able to try to achieve the expenditure budget with the variable taxes. So we had to go through and make several adjustments. That's why you have an updated expenditure packet that we'll briefly go through that afterwards to kind of highlight what those changes were. So if you look at the general fund revenues, you are going to see that number does not match up with your prior packet for expenditures, and that's why. All right. And if you'll flip over to the general fund revenues. Just going down the list here, so you can see that the general fund property tax revenue for fiscal year 24 proposed budget is $3,251,102. That amount includes delinquent taxes as well. So it's not just the standard property taxes. So it's a little inflated over what I just told you, but you'll see more on the next page. Then you'll have franchise tax, other taxes, permits, fees, admin transfers. And we talked about this last time, admin transfers. One of the biggest reasons for the increase with admin transfers was the fleet payments that came out of crime control district. I think that accounted for about 70-something thousand of it. Instead of previously we were paying for the police vehicles and the lease payments out of CCD fund, and we should be paying for it out of general fund and moving funds over. So we had to add that as a new one.
Okay.
So administrative transfer revenue went up. Other revenue is up over the prior year budget, and of course, intergovernmental revenue. You'll see that that's a big jump, and that's primarily due to dispatch and proposed agreement with the school resource officers.
What is equity change?
That is how much, essentially, it's how much you would have to. You would be contributing or pulling from reserves, over under. That's our over under.
Okay.
So we're over. You know, last year how you liked the $15,000 extra we had? Yeah, that's $5,000 extra.
So it's 5,000 under, so over.
Over.
So it's going to be in the whole 5,000.
Correct.
That's what the parentheses looks like.
Yes.
As he mentioned, our numbers are very conservative, so we're hoping that 5,000 actually will be quite a bit more. But until we start receiving those revenues from the new subdivision, we're not going to know. So I budgeted conservatively. I don't want to be in the hole. Okay.
Did you work out anything with the school district?
Yeah, so they have proposed a new agreement with the school for adding 2 more officers rather than the 12. So we would have a total of 8. So we're going to come back to the table and work on an agreement there. The total will be $770,000. I'm just waiting on them to approve an agreement before I even bring it back to the table here. I want them to approve it first because I don't want to waste your time. So I want them to approve it and then we'll bring it back over to you. So I would expect that probably the first meeting in September. Yes, we did include, I do anticipate them to approve it. We have been back and forth with the school district several times on this, and that is included in that intergovernmental revenue. I do anticipate them to approve it, so we can go ahead and budget for that on both revenue and expenditures. All right, flip over to the next page. Here's the breakout of the property tax. So see the property tax current is estimated to be $3,161,102. Last year it was $2,995,361. So as you can see right there, we're $160,000 roughly increase in property tax revenue there. We did increase the anticipated sales tax revenue as well, $50,000. Our sales tax has been performing pretty good. We continue to see positive trends there. So I feel like that number's still a little conservative. I think we'll probably wind up at the end of the year this year close to 500,000, maybe 475, somewhere in that ballpark. Before year end. So I think 450 is still a pretty conservative number. Franchise tax, right-of-way tax, no major changes there. Some slight increases in franchise. Building permit fees. This is a dramatic increase. And if you look at the fiscal year to date, is $103,468. We only budgeted $25,000. This is primarily due to Hannah Ranch and the permits coming out. Now that, after talking with Chief Watley and Donna and doing some research, that dollar amount of revenue this year only accounts for about 38 of the homes. And there's 202 homes being built. So 150 is still a little conservative.
Very conservative.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
we're at 47,000 for the 32 homes. Is that the way I'm doing my math?
I'm sorry, say that again.
Well, maybe I didn't do it right. So this year so far, it's 103,000.
Yes, ma'am.
That includes the 32 homes that have already,
38 permits is what they've pulled so far.
and that was over the 25 that we budgeted.
Yes.
Well, that's a lot of money. That's 78. Ooh, okay, I just wanted to hear that again.
Yes, ma'am. It's revenue. It's good.
Are the funds that we received from these, what is it about?
We haven't received any of those funds yet. That's still going through all the governmental process on the grant. No, none of it's, we haven't seen any of it. We have to go through environmental reviews. We're still waiting on Tarrant County Health to process some stuff for us and help us out. It's quite a bit of a process to get that, but we haven't seen any revenues there.
It's not included in the revenue section because we want to be sure that we have it. We'll do a budget amendment once we receive the funds.
After the COVID, what is the balance on that? Which line item is that again?
It is almost spent. But it's a special fund, it's a restricted fund that it doesn't show as a revenue or as an expenditure until council approves it. There was roughly $180,000 in unallocated funds. And we've been recommending that we don't touch that in case we need it because we can use it for any municipal purpose. I am recommending in this budget here, as kind of almost like a safety net, that we allocate 113 of it to cover some of these projects and expenditures, which we'll talk about when we get into. But right now if we allocate 113, there's only about $70,000 left. And I would recommend that we hold on to that. It's not a whole lot of money until
Year end.
till year end, when we have to spend it. I did not come prepared for that. Yeah, I'm trying to think if I have give me just a second, ma'am. Let me see if I can find that for you.
113 to vote to cover stuff.
Yeah, but it's on my. I was just trying to find an old list because the total amount hasn't changed. $1,539,557.38 is the total amount of American Rescue Plan Fund allocation for Everman.
I have a question, if we have, some of these, I don't know what these, which fund it is, but the roads and that we're using for the well sites, if that's on some type of, bond plan, was that 20 something? Okay,
Are you talking about the bond fund?
yes, is that the well site on the well?
Yes, they are.
Okay, so why would we use some of the COVID money for the bond fund?
So the bond, when the bond was taken out, the 2020 CO bond, it was taken out for very specific purposes. Columbine Well was built in there. There was an additional water tower site that we had to scrap because there wasn't enough funds available. It's very specific when you take out a CO. The American Rescue Plan funds were very broad. We could spend those on electrical rehab. We could spend those on any kind of water infrastructure. When the American Rescue Plan funds were first disseminated to the municipalities, we had to follow certain guidance, and there were only certain things that we could spend it on. As time went on, they changed that guidance and finally said for municipalities of a certain size or smaller, you can use it for any municipal government purpose. So they kind of kept changing the rules on us as we were possessed.
The requirements as time went on.
So the bond fund was allocated for specific purposes. ARPA funds were extra dollars that the government gave us in response to COVID to try to help out with reduced revenue sources to take care of special issues, but we only had a limited time to spend those. And we did allocate the majority of ARPA towards water system improvements because we knew that our water system needed significant upgrades to stay compliant with TCEQ. And this would not hurt the water fund by investing those there.
Right. So back to permits and fees. Anything else?
No, not on permits and fees. We just wanted to highlight that 150,000 seems to be pretty conservative. A couple of adjustments as you continue to go down. The plumbing permit fees I do want to explain because you'll see year to date was 23,000.
Wait a minute, plumbing.
It's about 5 down from where you just were.
Oh,
You'll see year to date shows to be 23,000. We're only budgeting 7,000. When you see that we're only increasing at 500, there's a reason for that small increase. And that's because prior to the most recent adoption of the fee schedule, people used to have to pay for a building permit and a plumbing permit, and we consolidated those. So a lot of those, that $23,000 was Hannah Ranch. But going forward with the new fee schedule, the plumbing fees will be included in the building fees. So we're not recommending that we increase that budget amount right now.
Why is there not any food truck fees?
Well, there's a couple, but
No, we have received 900. I didn't want to budget more just because. Yes, we have spots available, but it would be nice if we're not relying on that money. Because it's such a small dollar amount, I just figured let it hit as extra when it does come in.
we did increase animal control adoption fees a little bit. That's just $1,000, but we're seeing more animals. Civic center fees, we did increase $10,000. We're budgeting a revenue of 50,000 for this next year. I suspect that we might get close to that before year end because now that summer's winding down, we have a lot more rentals coming up in September, August and September. So we'll get some more revenue there as well before year end.
Residential inspection fee.
security alarm fee, looks like y'all are dropping that down, but not bring their alarms. 3 up from the bottom.
Well, we just haven't seen that much of revenue. Year prior was 4,720. So far this year, we're at 3,000. So we're just not seeing that many of them. The residential inspection fee, that's a significant jump. And that's because of Hannah Ranch.
Yes.
Every single one of those homes is going to have to be inspected. And so we're anticipating a significant amount of revenue from that.
What is the recycling fee?
That's the pass-through fee for waste connections. There was a 6% increase on that this year from waste connections, a 6% increase on trash and recycling.
Recycle.
Because that will rates be going up on recycling rate.
Yes, ma'am. They did in June. We got the notice from waste connections.
We did the billing this week. That was water. Disregard. But it was updated this month, yes.
All right, if there's no questions there, we'll flip over to the next page. I'm sorry, we're in general fund revenues. At the top, it says administrative transfers in.
Got it.
Oh, okay, perfect. Again, significant increase in administrative transfers in primarily due to the crime control district being transferred into general fund to pay for the lease. Not many other major changes there. I think we are hitting water as well for 50% of the salary for UB supervision. We were not doing that before. And we have a UB supervisor that's paid out of general fund, so we needed to tap that to offset those fees. But mainly that's just a wash. That's just moving money around to pay for operations. We are seeing increase in court fines and fees. That's associated typically with citations that are issued. Since we're seeing an increase there, we have increased the revenue to 150,000 there. Not many other changes up top. If you want to go down to other revenue. We're not budgeting an increase there with ambulance fees. You'll see that our year to date appears to be a little low. Chief Wiley is working with a billing company to find out why. Apparently there's a backlog. So we are expecting to see that money come in, and should be on target, but no budget increase there. Fire billing, we did increase. It was 3,000. We bumped that up to 10,000. As you can see, we had 13,039 there. This is all money that was paid for by insurance companies. Again, when we pass the ordinance, we do not bill an individual resident for fire services, but we do bill insurance companies for response and materials used on scenes. We knew that there was going to be a delay launching that, and we're starting to finally see that catch up.
Some change in legislation regarding that as well. So Chief Watley thought that he would be able to start collecting more money in that regard due to the legislation.
Gain on asset sale is down significantly this year, and that's primarily due to we're not anticipating any major vehicle sales this next year. We've got a couple of replacements coming, but we're not confident that we'll have vehicles that'll go back in on this next fiscal year. So we didn't want to budget. If we have some that get turned in, great, but we're not relying on that.
What line is that?
On revenue, under other revenue, it says gain on asset sale.
It's 11 down. Okay. So by that you mean, what do you mean by that?
So when we get a new lease vehicle, if we have any vehicles that we own, we'll sell those off. If we own them, we'll sell those off. And any other extra equipment and stuff that we have, we will also auction that off. So any of our auction proceeds.
It's not just vehicles, it's any type of equipment that the city sells on the auction website.
I don't know why I thought that would, it sounded like when you confiscate a vehicle for whatever reason.
Oh, that's something different.
Yes, that's where I was going. Okay, I got you.
So how many, and the total, vehicles are we leasing for?
Fire department has only one lease vehicle. I'm sorry, it has two. Has two lease vehicles, the chief's vehicle and the utility truck. The rest of the fire apparatuses are owned outright. We don't lease those. All of the public works trucks, I didn't come prepared for a total number. But public works and police vehicles are on lease, with the exception of we do still have a handful, I think maybe 3 or 4 police vehicles that we own outright that we're just waiting on lease vehicles to come in. And when, depending on what happens with the SRO agreement, we'll either reallocate those to another officer or we'll turn them back in, or we'll sell them.
Okay, so how many?
I didn't come prepared for a number, but I can research that for you. I'll research that if you'll go down the rest of the page for me.
We've only had, I'm moving down an item. We've only had $102 worth of insufficient check fees this year.
Yes, because the majority of the insufficient checks hit water, and you'll see them on the water side.
Okay.
This is just general fund, so yeah,
I
we
thought
take
it was all-
less money, and so it doesn't happen very often.
Okay, what is lease proceeds?
That is when we get a new lease that comes in and we turn leases back into enterprise, they auction them off and we get those proceeds from that auction to go right back to help pay for the new leases.
And we have since received a check for about $136,000 that hit after I had already printed this. So, so we've already received some for this year.
Okay, and for maintenance, for those vehicles, we're all paying for is all.
Yeah, so we actually don't pay for, we don't pay for batteries, we don't pay for tire rotations. And most basic maintenance, I don't think we pay for oil changes either. All that's included in the lease payment. Anything above and beyond that, we do have to pay for. But we pay for that through the lease. So I guess with any new windshield wipers, if they had a blowout, replace a tire, timing belt brakes, anything above and beyond routine maintenance, we have to pay for.
Repair.
It depends. If it's a Chevy, then normally we take it to the Chevy dealership here in Fort Worth. Ford trucks, we'll take to the Ford dealership. We try to take them back to the dealerships because they work directly with Enterprise, and Enterprise guarantees the lowest rate. So number one is a part of paying for this. Every maintenance fee that comes across, Enterprise has to review, make sure it's in line with market value, and says yay or nay. If it's higher than market value, they literally call my cell phone, say, hey, I got this car at the shop. They're wanting to charge you more than what we think they need to be charging you. What do you want us to do? We tell them to try to negotiate it down, or to say, we've got to pay, we've got no other option pay it. They leave it to us.
Okay. So is that for the main?
That'll come out of expenditures.
That's on the expenditures and it hits general fund and the maintenance fleet department. It's 510, Department 510.
And we went over that.
No, we're going over revenues right now.
All right. Jumping down real quick. So you can see here the grant revenue, American Rescue Plan ARPA. Again, that's not any additional funds above that 1.5 million that I mentioned earlier, but we are asking that City Council approve an allocation of 113,000 to help offset this budget. Really, I think that's going to be an insurance policy or anything else. I don't think we'll need that 113,000 as we get closer to year end. If we don't use it, then we'll keep that back in the ARPA pool. Keep in mind, we have to expend all of those funds, all of ARPA, by the end of 2024. January 1st, 2025 is when we have to expend all of ARPA. So as we get closer to the end of this budget year, anything that we have left in ARPA that we haven't utilized or haven't utilized to balance any budgets or take care of any incident, which is things that we are expecting, we would ask you to approve to spend it so we can expend all of it. If we don't expend all of it by January 2025, we have to return it to the federal government, and I don't want to give them any money back.
We won't be doing that.
No.
We won't.
So January 1st, January 31st.
First.
Okay. We have to have it all spent in 2025.
And actually, it'll need to be done prior to that because we have reporting
Sure,
that needs to be done too.
Got to feed through the system.
Yep,
Okay.
proof of payment and all that fun stuff.
And-
Documentation.
Councilwoman Allen, it's 31. So we are leasing 31 vehicles from Enterprise total.
Okay, and that's required, so. Police and public works.
Let me count.
Well, there was,
It's a combination of
okay.
both fleets. Okay, while he's counting, we can turn.
Yeah,
the
let's
page.
keep going while he's counting. No.
And like you mentioned, we went up slightly on the intergovernmental from the county. EMS went up slightly. The fire went up slightly. They're hoping that they can do more, but at this time we've budgeted conservatively. And we did increase on the SRO up to 770,000, which includes the 2 new officers.
So that's a total for the aid that
Yes,
school district uses.
that's correct.
8 officers.
Mhm. And then the revenue for dispatch, that is the total amount that we currently have agreements with other cities for.
So we collected 429 so far this fiscal year, but
Yeah.
we're looking at $1 million.
Yes, several of the agencies are new, and so they weren't
Yes.
included in this total. Yeah.
Cool.
All right, I've got the count. So it's 15 white fleet vehicles, which includes public works and animal controllers, 1 animal control truck. 14 police vehicles and 2 fire.
Why don't we keep 15 public works?
There's, let's see. There's 2 F-550 chassis. Those are dump trucks. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 Chevy pickups. 1, 2, 3, 4 Dodge Ram pickups. Riverage Traverse, the code enforcement Traverse. And the city pool vehicle Traverse. That's what's in our white fleet.
What do you call the police and fire fleet?
Sorry?
Call it white fleet, the public works and patrol. What do you
Yes.
call the other, the blue? You call it the blue.
The expensive fleet. The white fleet is what pays for everything else.
Okay.
Before we actually start seeing that revenue. So,
Gotcha.
yep. And then again, this is just based on the sales tax hitting street improvement. And an increase in interest. And the money that we received from the county was to offset the expenditures that we had. So, yeah, that's money in, money out.
And.
Yeah.
All right.
And crime control district. Bang, bang.
Same thing, sales tax.
Sales tax, crime control and street improvement are 125. So the majority of the sales tax is EDC. And then debt service, I'll let Susan explain that one. You explain it better than I do.
And this is just the property tax portion that goes towards the debt service. And so the amounts listed here on the revenue are the exact amounts of our expenditures for next year. So they're just even across.
All right. Any questions there? All right. Water sewer fund.
No, because, well, that's because it includes this.
The jump because of the new houses, probably.
So this is just the summary by type, but for the breakdown, you turn the page.
So as you can see, when you see that equity change, this means that we're anticipating to collect $135,000 over our anticipated revenue for water fund. That's a good thing. All right, so if you flip over to by accounts, it'll be the breakdown. Water sales is expected to come in at 1.4, not much higher than what it is this year. I think the biggest budgeting increase here is just the impact fees. As you can see, there's a budget of $250,000 for impact fees because we now have impact fees. We didn't have those previously. So that's provided a big jump. And then, of course, the water meter fees that's associated with Hannah Ranch, as they have to buy all new water meters out there.
Once the houses go up, the water sales will also go up. But as of right now, we have 1.4.
And keep in mind too, so the August is our largest consumption month. So this is always a big revenue month for the water fund, essentially. July, August. Major changes.
What happened to rental property registration fee? Have we had that many this year?
We have a code enforcement officer that this is his niche. He loves this. He loves making sure people do this. He hits me up about once a month for the updated rental registrations that have come online. And so he hammers those out. Make sure that people are registering their rental properties here.
Make sure they're registering what?
Rental properties.
Okay, good.
Yep.
And this is code enforcement.
Yes. Code enforcement enforces that one. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, now, but he, also a police officer, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, now, is he the majority of the time in court?
He is full-time practically in City Hall, or out in the field, but he does, the majority of his duties are specifically focused on code. Very rarely does he perform general patrol officer duties. He is available if needed, but the majority of his function is code. Quite frequently. Quite frequently. He's got, that's actually one of the reasons why our citations are so much higher is because the enforcement is, he's enforcing a lot. He's really pushing forward on several issues. His latest focus has been geared on substandard buildings, which we're talking about. We've got a couple of substandard buildings here that are about to be brought to you guys. So he's working real hard on quite a bit.
Okay, and what about small items such as, high grass or Christmas tree lighting, fill up and all of that?
Most of those he handles on a complaint basis. If he sees it, he'll certainly address it, but that hasn't been his big focus. His big focus has been trying to address the major issues. Anytime he gets a complaint from a citizen, he does address it. So if we get a neighbor that calls and wants something addressed with their neighbor, he'll send them a letter and notice, but the majority of his focus has been on kind of the big ticket issues, some of our most obvious ugly issues, I guess we should say.
One of those was on my street. I don't know if they got a letter or what, but in one fell swoop, one afternoon, they took care of everything. It was obvious somebody had knocked on their door.
Yeah.
It was everything they took care of. All of us neighbors were very happy. Very happy.
We've received a lot of compliments on how much cleaner the city looks since he's been in there. He has had some challenges. I mean, he runs across people that just flat out won't comply. And then it kind of gets out of his hands. I mean, he's told me before, I just want to go over there and take care of it for him, but he can't, you got to go through the court system and there's a process and everything else. But I do know he is working as hard as he can on many of these. One of these is it's actually about to be brought to council. It's a substandard building issue and it's an apartment complex. So.
Businesses.
And businesses. He's addressing them all. All right. So any questions on revenues? You put a highlighted one. I didn't get a chance to highlight. Ooh. That's right. Okay, so real quick, we did reprint expenditures for you so you can see. If you just look over the first page real quick, that top general fund expenditure amount does match the general fund revenues of 8.18898. So this is a balanced budget that is before you. There are no questions. We did have to make some adjustments and things. I'm just going to kind of give you a high level view. And if you have any questions along the way, we can. Non-departmental didn't really have many changes. If you'll flip over to administration. Administration, I did reduce my contingency reserve. We proposed 40,000. I did reduce that down to 25,000. We had to make approximately $70,000 in operational cuts in the budget to make this balance. So that's what I'm pointing out to you here.
Contingency reserve.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
That was 40,000 on your old sheet. It's now 25,000. Finance, I don't believe had any changes. Human resources didn't have any. City secretary didn't have any. City council, if you'll see on here after, because we did discuss this at the last workshop.
$500 changes
Yeah.
on city secretary and human resources, but nothing major.
Council dinners is in there for 7,000. I also reduced the travel, schools and training this year to 5,000 only because the TML conference is here. It's local, so we're not anticipating any major hotel cost. Certainly if there's a training that the council member wants to go to that's out and you guys approve it, there's still funding there available for that. But I think we'll still be under budget this next year with 5,000. So we can increase that back up to 7,500 the following year if you want. I just didn't see a need to keep it there if we weren't going to spend it. So. But there is the $7,000 and Councilwoman Allen, I know we weren't here the last time, but we are separating these two out. Previously, they were all under one. The TML Region 8 dinners and city council functions were all hitting the same budget. Each council person now has $1,000 a year to spend on council dinners, the TML Region 8 and so forth. So that's in addition to the training budget. Parks, when you look at parks, previously we had, I think it was listed as capital expenditures. We're now just moving that down under ARPA. That's part of that $113,000 ARPA allocation we discussed.
And
So no real reductions there, just a change on that one. Public Works, you're going to see a dramatic reduction in salaries on Public Works. We are proposing, because the water fund is so much better off and handling everything very well, we are proposing that we move 2 employees from being paid underneath general fund to being paid underneath water sewer. So that way it balances it out. Again, their functions are all essentially the same. They all work together all day long. So it doesn't make much of a difference on how we pay for them or where we pay for them. But for the purposes of budget, and considering the majority of their function is related to water sewer work, we were proposing to move their salaries out of water. So you'll see a reduction in salaries here. Not that we're not cutting the number of employees back by any means, just moving where their salaries are coming from. Underneath fire, I did make a couple of adjustments here. Chief Watley had requested we allocate $10,000 towards events. What was it called?
Yeah, public event.
Public events. Was that on here?
Yeah.
Still?
Yeah.
Oh, yep. Public events. I did remove that. We're just going to have to focus really hard on making sure we get sponsorships to pay for everything. We just weren't in a position this year to add some extra money. So I'll work with him to make sure that we are in a good position on sponsorships for this next year. Couple of other little minor adjustments here and there, nothing major.
they specialists and therefore we would not pay for it now for services and everything for repair.
Yes, we have. But none of them are expensive. None of them are cheap. We have an agreement right now with a company that's not Doug Keys for maintenance of our fire department servers and fire department computers over at dispatch. And that agreement just for those few computers costs us about $30,000 a year. So when you start calculating in every piece of equipment and all the computers and things, it's still going to be pretty expensive. One thing I would like to do going forward, and I've talked to Doug Keys about this before, and I think we need to really start paving the way for this, is the city should be employing, we're getting to all the technology that is needed. The city should be employing a full-time IT specialist. Yeah, rather than contract service, but
It still at this point be in addition to Doug, but they could help offset some of the need for Doug, like he wouldn't necessarily have to come here every time for every little troubleshooting issue, but part of the reason that we're paying so much is the commuting time and the extra hours he's spending on all these lots of projects.
Yeah.
Would that be the purpose of hiring an IT?
I don't know that it would be much cheaper than it would be now. Because to hire somebody to the magnitude that would be needed to where you don't need anybody else, it's going to cost us $80,000-$90,000 to hire an IT professional of that magnitude.
They have the other month.
Yes, but that's also including the equipment that he's purchased, not just his services.
Yeah. I would love to have a full-time IT guy because in the interim, it's always me who's the IT guy. And I would love to have somebody else that can do it for me.
And honestly, we've sat down with him, with Doug to try and come up with a contract amount. A flat rate that makes it easier for budgeting purposes to kind of keep it on a level. But as of right now, we don't have any agreed upon amount, so.
Under police, you will see an increase in salaries over the previous line. That's primarily due to adding 2 officers back in for the school resource division. I don't think there were many other changes. Yeah, benefits. Yes, ma'am.
3 pages back.
Law clerk service, it went from 40,000 to 55.
I'm seeing 50 to 55.
This year, we have allocated 50,000. So far, we have paid out 38,000 as of the end of June. So we're not done paying them for the season. So it will be 50,000 that was paid in fiscal year 23.
And there were a couple of small land spots that were missed on the initial contract. So Gilbert was making sure to add that in there. And the 55 is just kind of a cushion to make sure that we don't, in case companies always want to increase every year. So if we get a small increase of some kind, we'll have enough in the budget to cover it.
All right, so on police, you were saying, with salaries,
Yeah, you'll see an increase in salary and benefits on police. Primarily due to the 2 additional school resource officers above and beyond what the last list had. So you'll see some increases there. I don't believe there were any reductions in police.
and you added major investigation.
That was added this past year. You just see the expenditure there from last year.
Yeah.
We're not budgeting anything that for this next year.
Okay.
That was related to the Noel case.
Okay.
Help us track it.
And 35 for police duty cameras.
Yes, ma'am. We have $35,000 is still in here for the police duty cameras.
That's the recurring contract amount that we discussed last.
I just want to be clear, that will be in here every year.
Yes,
Okay. All right.
making sure.
Anyone yelled at me last year? Wait a minute, we paid for that last year.
Pay for those again.
Dispatch doesn't have any changes in expenditures, primarily because their budget was self-sufficient with the revenues that offset it for the intergovernmental. So I didn't propose any changes in dispatch. Animal control is still the same. I did go ahead and reduce the animal control supplies on this budget. But hear me out. The only reason why I reduced it right now is because we're not counting on the revenue from the interlocal agreement with Forest Hill. So once we have an agreement for the next year of interlocal agreement with the city of Forest Hill, then we can bump this back up to where it was, and we'll have the revenue to offset it.
To offset it.
We were kind of budgeting before we had the revenue. If that makes sense. Yes, ma'am. Court, no real changes in courts. Over the last one. Civic Center, there's no changes here. Again, just to highlight, you'll notice the building maintenance is up. That's primarily to pay for, we want to make sure that we pay for painting every year. A year's worth of use out of the building, you start to see all the nicks and things on the walls and everything. So we want to make sure that we pay for painting in here every year. So that's why the building maintenance is up so high.
Nice.
Yes, ma'am. Agreed.
For publication and marketing for city events. Before advertising.
Well, there's some in the civic center budget, and
Or I guess it would depend on which event. So each event we do typically do a budget for that specific event, and it's based on the amount of money that we raise. So like for our Christmas event, we get sponsorships and things to funnel in to help pay for everything associated with that Christmas event. That would include sponsorship. That would include advertisement and marketing. The Celebrate America is the same way. Halloween's the same way. I don't know of any city event that we do where we don't obtain sponsorships to pay for that, that we would market above and beyond what's needed within the Civic Center budget. And then Wendy has an advertising, marketing, and publication budget as well within the city secretary budget.
Is there anything like for senior citizen, I don't, did you put any, funds in for that?
No, we haven't allocated any funding towards senior citizens, no ma'am.
Put anything for senior citizen, advertising or anything? Or even the, advisory committee?
I don't know what advertisement we would do associated with that would cost us dollars. The only thing that would cost us dollars associated with that would be if we put it in the newspaper, or if we want a TV commercial, radio commercial. Most of the advertising and marketing we do doesn't come at a cost to the city. It's all part of tools that we're already paying for. Whether that's through like the CTY system, our digital signage boards, paper products, which when we make our paper and posters and things and put them out, those actually don't hit publication because it's coming out of office supplies. We already bought the paper, we bought the ink, that comes out of just our general office supply budget. If we included anything in the water, that would have an increased cost, but that would fall underneath the utility billing expenditure. I can't think of anything that would cost us advertising and marketing wise for those kinds of things that would cost us any dollars.
We haven't budgeted any funds for any of the groups as a part of our rate. This is just strictly the city's operating budget.
Complete.
All right, fleet, you'll see the lease payment, we're anticipating it to go up by about 4%. So you'll see an increase there, no big deal. The vehicle maintenance, this is where the vehicle maintenance hits for the maintenance on all of our vehicles.
So we hadn't spent anything this year.
No, man, we spent $47,700
Oh, I'm
Um,
on maintenance supplies.
vehicle maintenance.
Yeah, real good. It's over budget.
Yeah.
Okay, we will fix that. We will offset that with the revenue that we just received, but yes.
Special revenues, there's no change. We did not change any of the special revenues, right? Expenditures. And the water sewer in here.
There was. No, not the numbers changes. Let me see these.
Debt service.
Are the numbers offset a little for a reason?
Where? Which page are you on, ma'am?
Funds, expenditures, summary by funds. It's just a thing, right?
Oh, yeah, the formatting just got off on those.
Okay.
Yeah,
Just want to make sure I wasn't reading something into it.
wanted to confuse you.
No,
Stupid spreadsheets. Okay.
All right, and then water sewer fund. You want to flip over to water sewer fund. We've got the cover that lists out the funds by department and then by accounts. You can skip through those. There's no changes there. Underneath the one that says, it says water and sewer fund at the top, water 500, 230.
Sorry, which page?
Says water and sewer fund. And then just below that, water 500-230. You will see an increase in the salaries here again, because we moved them from general fund over into water fund. So that's why you're seeing that increase, not only in salaries, but benefits and everything as well. No,
that was the only changes. we made.
yeah, I don't think there's any other changes in water. So everything else has stayed the same.
This is where you move those two employees from public.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, that'd cause you a heart attack looking at that.
That is correct.
I think we can go back.
So again, to recap, This is a balanced budget that's proposed to you. Tax rate is $1.03, lowest tax rate in 13 years. And we were still able to balance the budget, not without any headaches, but we were still able to balance the budget and make it work. So you've got a balanced budget in front of you, ready to go for this next year, unless council makes any changes above and beyond what we're proposing. Then we will look to finalize this and bring it back to you August 15th, I believe. Is that the date?
Budgets will be handed out next week.
Yeah. August 15th, right?
So yes.
Yeah. So August 15th is when we'll have the public hearing. You'll be asked to adopt the tax rate of $1.36080, and then ultimately approving the budget for the next year.
Good job.
Any questions?
Good job. Budgets will be handed out next week. We do not have a meeting, but we will make sure that you all get a week ahead of the hearing for the following month.
So Mayor, unless you have anything you want to change, discuss, do differently. Everybody else says anything, then the time is 6:11 and we are adjourned. Okay. You just want to leave the live stream up, it's kind of.
I'm not, yeah. That's why we have a digital copy. Usually I bring mine. Just wasn't thinking. Goes down to the. What does it say? What does it say? You're good. This is the one that I need to move. Advertise games, we turn it around to the camera. I know, it always been recorded. Or maybe I am a pain. She couldn't stay a month. Yeah, good. You have to go and stay that long, just stay as long as you can. Yeah.
I would call the regular meeting of the city council to order. It is 6:30 p.m. Tuesday, August 1st, 2023. We got a treat tonight. We have Pastor G with us. I've asked him to do the invitation. So if you please come up.
Sure. Your mic on.
Thank you, sir. With our kids. Our Father, which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name, thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Eternal God, most gracious God, we thank you for this day. We are thankful and grateful. And God, we are just so delighted of so many blessings you have bestowed upon each of us. Now, God, as we about to go into this meeting, first of all, we want to thank you for the officials of the city of Everman. We thank you for the community of Everman. We pray, God, for your wisdom. We pray for direction. God, we pray for safety. We pray, God, for assurance, inspiration tonight. And God, just lead us and we shall follow. Now, Lord, let the words of our mouth, meditation of our heart be acceptable in thy sight. O Lord, our strength and redeemer. In Jesus' name, we pray. Amen. Well, thank you, Pastor. Next, we pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Consent agenda, we have none, so next time is presentation. Item A, fourth-year drive study presentation. Good evening, Mayor and Council. So we have made some progress, as you know. We have been working with the Regional Transportation Council and the North Central Texas Council of Governments. A study associated with Forest Hill Drive and the traffic impacts along with that. This has been a multi-phase study that includes not just transportation, but as well as drainage, which is part of what the TNP flood study that's going on now is associated with. We had the opportunity last week to have a stakeholders meeting with the RTC partners, who kind of gave us some of the insight that I'm going to share with you tonight. And what they're seeking is comments from council, comments from staff. So if there's any comments that you have, you can share those with me and we're going to send those back. I believe Mr. Glenn Brown's here from the school district as well. We've shared this with them and have asked them, since this is occurring directly in front of their school, if they have any comments that they'd like for us to include as well. So I'm going to go through a little bit of what the study shows. And keep in mind, there will be a public input piece associated with it, so I'm not going to go into all the nitty-gritty details. We're going to save a lot of that for the public piece when they come out and educate the public on what it is that we're looking to do. But over the last couple of months, you may have seen that there have been officials from the Central Texas Council of Governments along Forest Drive conducting a traffic study. As a part of this study, they were doing traffic counts and assessing the impact as well as traffic speeds. The focus of the project starts in Forest Hill. One of the first problems that they noticed was that the traffic lights at the intersection of Forest Hill Drive and Interstate 20 are not synced together. And that causes a bit of a traffic problem. If you've ever tried to get on Interstate 20, you'll be stopped at one light, it'll turn green, you travel 10 feet, you're stuck at the next red light, you got to wait for that to turn green. They're not synced together, so it causes a lot of traffic problems. So that's actually the first thing that they are looking to correct, and they're going to be looking to see if Forest Hill to fix the timing on those lights at that intersection. Let me scroll down a little bit. So a couple of different things that they looked at. They wanted to look at the traffic pattern, how they could improve the roadway. But in addition to one of the unique things about RTC and Michael Morrison and everything approach this is they don't just want to improve traffic, they want to improve drainage. Because the two really go hand in hand. The plaque that you see on this page on the right, the top right, that's actually the plaque on the bridge of Chambers Creek on Forest Hill Drive. That bridge was built in 1939 and has not been replaced or upgraded since. It's time. We need to replace it. So that was a part of the study. The study, traffic study, and we're anticipating the drainage study will show is that this bridge, although built to spec probably in 1939, is not capable of handling the volume of water that we're expecting and receiving today. So we expect them to significantly upgrade this bridge. Some of the different things that they looked at the AM and PM traffic counts, particularly around the schools and how those were affected, as we know that it's rolled down in those specific peak volume numbers, and also the peak off-peak traffic counts, which is really insightful and gives you an idea of the traffic volume that we're seeing on Forest Hill Drive. This is the project area that we're looking at for the road expansion. The road expansion will go from Ron Stevenson all the way to Shelby Road. The plan is to widen this roadway to between 4 to 6 lanes all the way from Ron Stevenson to Shelby Road. The 6-lane portion of the road, which I'll show you the concepts here in just a minute, will be directly in front of the schools to provide 2 turning lanes, one turning in each direction in front of the schools to not impede the flow of traffic there. I'm going to scoot up here just a little bit. This is the proposal so far. There's an existing traffic light at Laurel Crest. They are proposing adding a traffic light at Ron Stevenson because we know that Ron Stevenson is expected to, in the future, connect to Alta Mesa Boulevard and go all the way through. So this will be a through traffic thoroughfare to Alta Mesa, ultimately to Interstate 35. They're going to add a traffic signal at the intersection of Enon and Avenue. And they will also add a traffic signal at the intersection of Forest Hill Drive and Shelby Road. Both these lights and all of these lights will be synced together in time together to make sure that the traffic flow doesn't stop so you can continue through. If you get one green light, you should remain getting green lights as you go through. These will be the first traffic lights in the city of Everman. So this is a really interesting diagram to share with you. This is Forest Hill Drive northbound. And I know when you first look at this, you're wondering, what am I looking at? The red and purple dots indicate traffic speeds of the red is between 5 and 10 miles an hour. The purple is 1 to 5 miles an hour. So that indicates that there's a significant amount of traffic congestion and how it bottles up. And you can see as you go from left to right, the far left is midnight. The far right is 11:45 p.m. So this is a 24-hour time span. And as you continue through the time, as you get during the morning peak hours, right about 7:15, we start getting traffic congestion on northbound Forest Hill Drive for about an hour, where speeds are reduced due to congestion down to below 5 miles an hour at times. So there's a significant amount of congestion northbound on Forest Hill Drive. You see the same thing, different varying times throughout the day. This is probably just due to different traffic patterns, more vehicles going in or out. But you see it real bad again in the evening time, after about 3:30, which is when school lets out. After about 3:30 until about 6 o'clock in the evening, we're seeing the same pattern in that area. This is northbound. Southbound's a little better. Currently southbound traffic, we see some congestion, not as much more yellows, and it's around the same morning peak time volume. And then about the time that school lets out, particularly where the Uplift Academy is, we see some problems there. But for the most part, southbound has not been as problematic. Any questions on those two? Kind of point that out for you. All right, this slide is just for informational purposes. This is great information for us to be able to utilize and share when we're talking about working with developers and things that are looking to come in the city. This is a traffic count. The traffic count is during AM peak hours. So it's during this same window from 6 a.m. to 9:30 a.m. These are the traffic count patterns at the different intersections. So it'll tell you, for example, 66 vehicles turned left during that peak hour off of Crest on the Forest Hill Drive North. You can see the traffic pattern in that couple hour window. We are seeing hundreds and hundreds of vehicles travel that particular stretch of roadway every single day. And then this is PM, the PM hours and the traffic patterns associated with that. Any questions on how that diagram works? Okay. All right, so the proposed alignments. So there are some proposed alignments, and this is still up for discussion. Obviously, with this, when you do any sort of roadway expansion project, there is a lot of things that are up in the air, including land acquisition. If we're going to expand a roadway, we have to acquire land to expand that roadway. And so the proposed right of way that they're looking to do through here is 110-foot right of way. It's a 110-foot wide stretch of roadway. And that is from sidewalk to sidewalk. And I'll show you the diagram here in just a minute, but it'll be a particularly wide road. As they were conducting the study, they noticed what we've all known for quite some time, and that is that there is absolutely no pedestrian traffic patterns over here. We have very few sidewalks, and these kids oftentimes have to run across the street into the grass or into the dirt and then walk north or southbound from there. So there's just no pedestrian traffic flow through here whatsoever. Traffic pattern will go from Ron Stevenson. If you're not familiar with Forest Hill Drive, it is 4 lanes already just north of Ron Stevenson. They're not proposing any changes to that. But starting at Ron Stevenson, coming southbound to Chevy Road, it will be a 4-lane divided roadway. So there will be a median in between. As you get down closer to Railcrest, there will be one small transition, and you can kind of see how that line curves. That's what they're talking about when they say transition. That line will come down and they kind of curve over a little bit to stay in line with the property lines that are available over there. As we come down Railcrest, there's an existing traffic light here. They are proposing a traffic light directly in front of Uplift, because we know that the Uplift traffic has been so convoluted that they have to have multiple police officers out there every single day just to conduct the traffic to get in and out. So they are proposing a traffic signal in front of that school to help alleviate that and keep the traffic pattern under control. This, of course, all these lights, again, timed together to not have any issues with traffic flow. The next transition will be down here at Forest Hill Drive and Edon. They are proposing having to do something with some of the building owners here. And all of this is up in discussion. We're going to have some discussions with the property owners on how we do this. We have 2 gas stations there at that intersection. Both of these gas stations have gas pumps really close to the roadway. So we're going to have to work something out with them. At Edon Avenue and Forest Hill Drive, we will add in another traffic signal, and then the roadway will continue down. If you see how the roadway is widened here, that is because they are providing for turning lanes. So it does appear wider here than it does down here. They're providing for the turning lanes going either direction. For each cross section of roadway that they come across as they move through this project, they will also improve 600 feet each direction of those roadways. So Enon Avenue, 600 feet each direction will get improvements. Chambers Creek Drive, 600 feet onto that. Same thing at every one of the cross streets they come across. They will take care of 600 feet to make sure that there's a smooth transition going from the new roadway to the existing roadway. And then transition number 3, where it jostles back, right there about Chambers Creek Drive, comes back down to the 4 lanes to, minimize, or coming down from the turn lane back down to the 4 lanes, all the way down to the post office, which is where there will be another traffic signal light at that intersection. And then ultimately, it'll narrow back down after Chevy Road and then back down to the existing, road, which I believe right there, it's a 2 lane, is where 2 lane starts, right on Linden. Yep. So it'll narrow back down to the existing roadway and match up there. Let's get through this. So this is the 110-foot right of way. This is a cross-section picture to show you what the roadway is proposed to look like. Essentially, there'll be a 3-foot easement on either side to allow for any kind of landscaping between the sidewalk and whatever structures may exist. On the west side of the roadway, they're proposing a 15-foot wide sidewalk. It's typically what we refer to as a shared path. Shared paths are accessible for wheelchairs, bicycles, pedestrian traffic. It's a much wider sidewalk that allows a lot of room. That'll be on the school side of the roadway because we have so many kids that are going up and down, kids that ride their bikes to and from school, giving them a very nice wide sidewalk there. Between that sidewalk or shared path and the roadway, we're proposing a 10.5-foot planting strip where we can put trees and things. Really what that does is that provides kind of a natural barrier between the road traffic and the pedestrian traffic to keep the pedestrian traffic safe. If for whatever reason a car starts to veer off the road, the idea behind it is, well, we want them to fly with our landscaping and not collide with the people on the sidewalk. So this gives them that extra buffer. 2 lanes, 2 driving lanes, and then a 16-foot median in between, 2 more driving lanes, and another 10.5-foot strip on the other side. On the east side, along with a 6-foot sidewalk on the east side. So there will be sidewalks on both sides of the roadway. This is during a 110-foot section of road. As you get down closer to E9, where we get a little tighter for space because of the existing buildings that are there, they are proposing to bring that down to 100 foot. They're doing that by reducing the median here in the middle from being, I think it was 16-foot median down to a 6-foot median there. Still keeping the 15-foot sidewalk on the east side and the 6-foot on the west side. And then directly in front of the schools, they're proposing a 6-lane, essentially where there's 1 turn lane on either side. This will be a 100-foot right of way, very small median, but providing a dedicated turn lane for both school campuses, the Sodom Elementary and the Redcliffe Academy. Mr. Brown, the RTC and COG proposed the traffic pattern that the Everman ISD uses to keep the traffic off the road. The design and what they've done over there with the school district to get the buses and everything off the road and have them kind of loop around the school and do what they've done over there has worked out really, really well. Many of the problems that we've seen on this roadway tend to come from uplift and just the way that they don't have enough space to round all these cars around that they've been dealing with. But having dedicated turn lanes will be very appropriate for over there, much safer. This is what a shared path looks like. This is that 16-foot, 15-foot wide sidewalk, accessible for bikes and pedestrians. When you're walking up and down the sidewalk, typically there's not enough room for a person on a bicycle right around you. That's why we do this. Crosswalk visibility enhancements. They do plan to provide some visibility enhancements. They've talked about the flashing signals at the schools. We've talked about the push button indicators. So when a child wants to cross the roadway, they can push a button. When they push the button, the street signs and stuff all start lighting up. So it catches everybody's attention that, hey, there's a pedestrian actually in the crosswalk right now. Obviously, high visibility markers, highway grade, all the way up and down. In the island here, you can kind of see that there's what they call a safe path here for the person to a pedestrian island where they can cross halfway and stop, and they don't have to worry about the traffic. They have a safe place to pause for a little bit in case the traffic on the other side doesn't let up for a little bit. So here's some of the examples of those. All of the sidewalk coming from the road will all be ADA compliant. All high vis marked correctly all the way through. Currently, they want to enhance the school zone markings and everything that's over there, so they do plan to do that as well. As you can see, our school zone sign that's over there, the shows tends to grow and it becomes very hard to see. It's a never ending battle every year with our neighboring city to get the crews out there that need to get out there to trim the bushes that are in our neighboring city's jurisdiction. All right. So that's the 50,000-foot view. I just wanted to bring to your attention and share with you today. Again, we are expecting for this to go to public comment and public input, and that will be hosted, I believe, at the Forest Hill Civic Center, where RTC will come down. They'll talk more in depth about their study, what they're looking to do. Keep in mind that the biggest benefit to all of this is that it doesn't cost you a dime. RTC and COG is taking care of the funding for this entire project. I'll turn yours down. I think it's just too hot.
Okay, I just want to say, it was a very good meeting, Mike Morris and the COG staff, and they listened to everybody's concerns. Forest Hill, Fort Worth, and Everman was there. And they listened to any concerns we had and were very receptive. So they want to do this thing right. So it was a really good meeting. And Michael Morris even come over afterwards, talk to us and just let us know they're going to do whatever they have to do this right. So it was a very good meeting.
So again, our goal here is to share this with you tonight. I do need to get this back to RTC probably this week. So does council have any comments, questions, or concerns that you would like for me to make sure that we include in our comments that we send back? Lynn, since you're here, do you have any comments or anything from the school district or any concerns?
Well, curious, do you have any mind to where the driveway will get to our property line? Will there be changing of property on each side?
I don't know the answer to that just yet. It's still in concept phase. So the next phase, once we get public input, we'll go to engineering and we'll determine how exactly the lines are going to line up. Yes, yes. This is a very exciting project. I think overall, there's 14 to $15 million in this project. On what the cost is going to be. It's a long project. So I need council to understand too that working on the back end stuff, there's still a very significant engineering phase to go through with this. So it will probably be about a year before we see construction kick off with this. So probably about this time next year. Right when school starts, great time to start a construction project, right? But it's on the books, it's moving. Any project to this scale, especially widening of roads such as this, it's going to be a long project. But I wanted to let you know it's moving forward.
If we keep our fingers crossed, maybe we'll have Wichita and Forest Hill both being road construction happening at the same time. So
then you're just trapped in Everman, you can't get out.
okay, Jim, you have a discussion on that? Okay, next item, citizens' comments. I know we have one or two. Go ahead, Mindy.
At this time, any person who desires to speak on any item posted on the agenda or any person with business before the city council not scheduled on the agenda may speak to the city council, provided that a speaker's request form has been completed and provided to the city secretary prior to the start of the meeting. Speakers are limited to a maximum of 3 minutes unless otherwise granted by the mayor. The city council cannot respond to matters not listed on the agenda until scheduled at a future meeting. Please direct all comments to council proper. Respect, decorum, and conduct shall prevail at this time. Impertinent slanders or personal attacks are strictly prohibited. Unauthorized remarks from the audience, stomping on feet, applauding whistles, yells, or any type of disruptive behavior are prohibited and violence be removed.
How many do you have?
Huh?
How many speakers do you have?
2.
Okay.
Thank you. Good evening to Mayor Richardson and to the council and everyone that's here. I'm Pastor Helen Collins Epps, and I'm the founder and executive director of the Morningstar Prayer Center / Resource Center in Fort Worth. We have a warehouse here in Everman, and Cy who owns American Barricades right down the street, is a dear friend of mine. And they do all of our barricades for us when we do giveaways. So I'm really here this afternoon because I would love to do a giveaway in Everman. We've done a couple of them in some different areas, kind of down in this area. We partner with Everman Schools, Principal Little, and some of the other principals. They pick up items from our warehouse in Everman. We've done giveaways all over the Metroplex and other surrounding areas. Typically, depending on how we plan it out, we could have anywhere from 3 to 1,000 people. It just depends on how we do it. We've done it in Forest Hill at the convention center. We have a partnership with TCC. Matter of fact, they talked to me today about scheduling one. I am an ambassador for World Vision. World Vision International. So I travel all over the country doing many different things. And I grew up in a small town, Hubbard, Texas. I have a love for the community. I live on Lon Stevenson Road. That was not necessarily good news, but it wasn't all bad news. I've lived in Forest Hill for 15 years. I owned a real estate company for over 40 years. So I'm right at home. I would love to do a giveaway here. This is an ideal spot to do it. The guy at the grocery store told me we could do one down there, but what I like here is it's one way in and one way out. We have police officers from all over the Metroplex that help us. We typically have anywhere from 50 to 75 or more volunteers that help us do the giveaway. We give away furniture, we give away freezers, you name it, we give it away. It's all brand new product or product that has been returned by one of our vendors. So that's really why I'm here. I didn't give a date because I just kind of would like to have you consider it. Side volunteered and said they'd bring their forklift down. We could either do it on this parking lot. People could line up either way that your police officers tell us how to do it. I just wanted to present it and get it on your agenda, Mayor Richardson, and see if that's something you're interested in. We don't ask people for their driver's license. They never get out of the car. And I run a very strict giveaway. Very strict giveaway. I don't allow them to get out of the car. They don't have choice, but everybody leaves with something. So if you have any questions, I'm available.
Well, we can't respond to you, so, correct?
You can ask clarification questions. Well, I'll let you turn it.
What do you think, Tammy?
I can't hear you.
Well, not on the agenda, now
Yeah.
maybe you can ask clarification. Could you hear that?
I did.
Okay.
One thing I would recommend is getting with Craig. And let's get it on the actual agenda where we can discuss it.
Okay. Okay.
And we need information. I mean, I know you said stuff, but we'll need information in front of us.
So is, I guess what we're getting at, council, are you giving me direction to put this on a future agenda item?
Yes.
Okay, done.
And you can go on my website, Morningstar Press Center on Wichita Street, and you can get plenty of information. You have my phone number. Thank you so much.
Next agenda,
the 15th.
yes, ma'am, the 15th. One star what? I'm sorry, what'd you say?
Morningstar
Morning.
Center, 5036 Wichita Street. And if you just go in Morningstar Prayer PC, Morningstar Prayer PC at yahoo.com. But if you put Morningstar Prayer Center in Helen Epps or Wichita Street, it'll automatically come up. We have 3 facilities, 2 in Fort Worth and 1 in Crowley.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Moringa OG.
Who's this guy?
I Pastor Michael G. and I pastor here in the city of Everman, Sweet Home Church of God in Christ. And we do a lot of community service. We host the Everman Independent School District luncheon. Unfortunately, we won't do it this year because we're doing some repairs at the church. But Miss Epps, I'm sorry, I volunteer at the warehouse, and also I am one of the I partner with the Morningstar Prayer Center. I think it'll be a great idea for the city of Everman because to see family bless and receive, and a lot of them just need that encouragement. And this is what we do as a church. And I'm asking you all to give it some strong consideration. because she's a well organized person and she will provide the information you need to see what she's all about. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
How come he didn't come to us about doing the election here?
I don't know. I didn't know about that. We can go in here.
Just keep that in mind in the future. If you can't use it there, we can let you in here, so. Okay, next item is discussion on item A, ordinance number 799, ordinance of the city of Everman, Texas, amending the ordinance of ordinances, chapter 13, offenses, article 2, minors, by repealing division 2 curfew for minors, providing a savings clause, providing a severability clause, and providing an effective date. You want a motion or you want to?
No, this is a discussion item only.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, discussion item. Matter of fact, I did attach a staff report to this. So there's a copy of it sent to my staff as well as the school district and some surrounding others. The state of Texas, our legislature has passed a bill that is taking away local authority to have curfew ordinances. So city council will be forced to repeal current standing curfew ordinances. This does apply to daytime and nighttime ordinances. And then that will be effective September 1st. And then they're essentially, because of the obvious legislation change, there's no reason for a prosecutor or judge that would take a current curfew citation and find judgment on it anyway, knowing that the law is about to change. So the memo that I copied you on is just instructing our staff that we're not going to enforce that at all by policy anymore. And I just wanted to let you know, I oppose what our state legislature did. I don't think it's the right move. I feel that they missed the mark again with juvenile processes. I feel that when they've done this before, that they have taken the law enforcement to have positive contacts. When we go back and look at our status, when it relates to curfew violations, almost all of the contacts are positive. And we've come across kids during the daytime who are hungry, who need something. And so we're not writing them tickets. We're not enforcing it in that aspect, but it's giving us a reason to make contact with them. And we find out that they've got a need, or we send them down a different path, or we get them to school, or we find out what's going on at home. It's been a tool that's been utilized for us that has helped prevent crime and helped prevent juvenile victimization. And I think that the state taking that into control away just wasn't appropriate. So I will continue to work with the Texas Police Chiefs Association and our state reps to see if maybe in the future we can get this reinstated where we can have some local control over this. All this tends to stem from incidents that occurred. I think this started in Lubbock. Lubbock PD had a pretty high number of curfew contacts and citations, and it was supplementing what's commonly referred to as the school to prison pipeline. Although that may have been what's happening in Lubbock, that's certainly not, in my opinion, what's happening here. I think it's kept our juveniles safe, it's kept our citizens safe, and it's given us a proper tool to be able to utilize, and we no longer have that tool. So that ordinance will come to you at the next council meeting for you to adopt.
Well, I definitely take issue with it because some of those kids, this is what they need to get them back on the right path. And this just keeps them going the direction they're going. If they're going down the wrong path, they're going to continue to go down the wrong path. And I don't understand it. Right.
We've got a lot of state legislatures that are brain dead. Don't understand. Yes, I said that on the microphone. Oh, all right.
So you're preaching to the choir. So
unless council has any questions, I mean, it's up to you. I just wanted to make sure you were aware of it and why it's coming on the next agenda.
Thank you.
any other questions or discussion?
No.
Okay, item B, discussion related to the potential creation of a stormwater utility in the city of Everman.
The mayor actually brought this to my attention on the desire to create a stormwater utility. He wanted me to research what it would entail. So we have done that. We are neighbors to the north in the city of Forest Hill. We have a stormwater utility. So I've asked for copies of their ordinances and how that was worked out for them. And it has created a good fund for them to be utilized for drainage improvements around the city. That fund actually in the city of Forest, that fund just paid for a $400,000 drainage study that they're doing in the city of Forest Hill, and it's funded many other drainage improvements. So I did check with our city attorney's office to find out the process. It is an entirely new utility. So this will be a separate utility. So council would have to create first the drainage utility, and then we would assess with the fee amounts on that. I just kind of wanted to get either a consensus from council on if this is a direction you would like for me to go. If so, I will continue to work with the city attorney's office to draft all the necessary paperwork to bring back to you. This will require several notices and a couple of public hearings in order for us to do. But the way that this would be done on the way that the revenue would be generated would actually be through the water bill. City council can set the rates. The rates typically in most cities are set one rate specific for residential, another rate specific to commercial. We know that commercial properties tend to have a more significant impact on drainage than residential properties. So the commercial property rate is generally higher than the residential property rate. To give you kind of an idea of what the revenue would look like annually based off some varying fee amounts. Currently, we have almost 1,600 residential water accounts. We have 160 commercial water accounts, and then 311 senior citizen water accounts. At $3 per residential and $6.62 per commercial property a month, that would come out to an annual revenue of about $81,000. When you bump that to $4 per residential dwelling and $6.62 per commercial, comes out to $103,000. $5 a month for residential, $6.62 for commercial, comes out to about $125,000 a year in general revenue. So as you can see, this would be a great revenue source. Currently, the city of Everman budgets, we have $0 allocated towards any drainage improvements. We have always relied upon grant funding and everything to do this. We need to create a revenue source, in my opinion. Recommendation that we create some kind of revenue source to start allocating towards towards drainage improvements. So what that amount is completely up to you. I would recommend that we advertise this in a very high manner and give citizen feedback on this. First off, whether we support or oppose this, and then two, what kind of fee amount would our citizens be willing to pay for to start seeing drainage improvements? And we know that might vary because we have residents in varying circumstances. We have some that are affected by the poor drainage, and we have some that are not affected by the poor drainage. So taking all that data will be then left up to you on how those will be determined. Well, can you think of anything to add?
I don't have anything to add on that.
Okay.
No.
So the reason I brought this up is I know after we get the flood study done, that's going to tell us what needs to be done with our system. And even if we go after grant funding, a lot of those may not be 100%. They may be matching, maybe 80-20, might be 70-30, could be 50-50. So we're going to have to come up with part of those funds. And I was just looking at avenues where we can speed up the process a little bit. Because we know just getting the grants by themselves is going to be a long process. So then if we do that and we find out that we've got to come up with X amount of money on top of that, then that just slows everything down. So it's just something I just wanted to throw out there.
I think it's a good idea.
I've always said no up until now, but with the fact we do have the flood study going, I think we need to look into it.
I like it.
Any questions or comments? Yeas or nays?
I think the only other thing that we're planning on is just keep in mind, we get a very small water increase this year, 10 cents. I don't think we're anticipating major drops in that going forward, as long as we address it every year. Let the residents, they just get a 10 cent increase, and I think they're going to get hit for $2, $3, $4, or $5. So we just need to make sure that we're notifying them on what the purposes are, and just know that may not be as well received, just like any water rate increase. So just something to think about as you're considering it.
And this would start when?
When council passes, I mean, we would look. It's going to take a minimum of, I would say, 60 days. I don't think we can get this done within the next 60 days. So if council gave me the full consensus today, we would start the process.
Several public hearings.
And newspaper publication, getting everything, so take a while.
And so our consensus today is just to start the process and then the community and everybody would have.
Yes, yes, if I get the consensus today that you want me to proceed forward with work on this, then I'll work with the attorney's office to draft everything, create public notices. It will come back before you several times before you vote to create anything or assign any fees. So there will be several opportunities for public input and for you to consider and weigh all your options.
What newspaper would this be published in?
This particular one, we will probably publish in a Star Telegram.
Lightest possible.
Yes.
Well, this may be a deal. When you get 2 or 3 months down the road and we're doing the public hearings and everybody shows up and says, we don't want it. So if that's the case, we'll walk away from it. So, yeah. So it's, like I said, it's an option for us. So,
Everybody okay with pursuing?
Yes.
Okay. All right, we'll work with the city attorney's office to start bringing that all back.
next item C, discussion related to the acquisition of public safety portable radios for police and fire departments through a monthly lease payment option.
So currently, our police and fire radios are becoming more dilapidated. Each radio now, I know the police radio cost about $5,000 brand new. Fire radio is going to cost about $7,500 brand new. And we are starting to get in pretty poor shape with the quality of our radios. They're getting older. Some of the radios have been in service for 15, 16 years. And we just cannot keep up with them anymore. And it's so hard to acquire when you're talking about $5,000 or $7,500 a radio. It's so hard to acquire them in enough of a time to keep up with all of them every year. I would have to come to you if I wanted to buy just 4 radios, and I need 20 of them, 25 of them. If I need to buy 4 radios, I'd have to come to you for a $20,000 request to do that. So it becomes very, very hard to keep up with. Motorola has a lease option available. That is a 7-year lease option. And we're working with Motorola. This will provide both the police department and fire department with the most recent upgraded radios. The other thing to keep in mind too is our radios that we currently have, many of them are coming up on end of life, which means they're no longer going to be supported and the warranties are going out on them. So the police department needs 25, I believe. Chief, do you recall the exact number on yours?
Finance, we had either purchase other stuff.
Okay. And he's got some grant funds to help him out on some of his, not so many grant funds available on the police
Yeah,
side.
some of them are drying up. So
Yeah. But all in all, what we are proposing is that with this lease agreement, this would supply the police and fire department with all the latest, greatest handheld radios from Motorola on the system. It includes roaming. It does include some warranty time in there as well. And then this would be paid out on a 7-year lease. The first payment would not be due until fiscal year 2024 budget. So it's not included in this budget. I'm not asking you to allocate any additional funds out of this budget. This will be the following year's budget. There wouldn't be any money due this first fiscal year in 24. In fiscal year 25 budget. This is 24 budget. Yeah.
When were the radios last
No.
replaced?
Yeah, it wouldn't be in this budget. I'm sorry, say it again.
When were the radios last replaced?
It's a hodgepodge, to be quite honest with you. I've got a mix of different brands, different makes, different models. We've got some agencies that were gracious enough to donate some here to us not that long ago. I can't. Yeah, all of our Motorola radios have pretty much been donated to us, but they were only used when we got them. We have not done a solid replacement of radios. We haven't done a solid replacement of radios since I've been here. Working for the city, it's always been we'll buy a couple here, buy a couple there. We've never gone through and completely replaced all of our radios.
When Randy was the chief of police, seems like our radio system no longer talked to Fort Worth or something like that, and we had to get some new ones then.
Yes,
That's the last time I remember any kind of radio replacement.
yes, that is correct. And even then it was buying a few at a time to try to get there. And so Chief Sanders was always good about, he started that project very early on. He was kind of sneaky about how he did it. But he started that project very early on. He would buy a couple, hold on to them, buy a couple more, and hold on to them, kind of putting them in the savings. And then when it came time that we had to make a change, we had everything we needed to make that change. But we're not in the position right now that we're buying a couple at a time is keeping us up. They're all failing. I've got several radios, fire department. If you don't think something's unbreakable, just give it to a firefighter. We'll figure out a way to break it. But these radios, they get broken, they get beat up. Same thing with police officers. I joke about the firemen, but same thing with police officers. If they get into a chase or something happens and the radio falls off, I mean, they get beat up. These do come with warranties. They are very, very high quality radios and will last us for most certainly the term and then longer of the lease.
Working through renewal of the fleet, the police aren't vehicles. We are standing back and saying, trying to study the cost of can in that area. So a mobile radio, the one that's actually installed in the vehicle. A few of the especially with the SRO, we're not putting one of those in there. That's a safety profit. With these new radios, that are a lot higher, and they're more efficient radio, so we can utilize that as well as communications. Therefore, staying on the other side too.
So how do we keep with this?
This will be starting not fiscal year 24, not the budget we're about to approve, but the following budget year, we can start incorporating these annual payments in there. And I think, would this be tracked as a debt? Would it be a debt on a lease? Yeah, lease payment, capital lease payment. So
Similar to the enterprise, the way we've been financing.
So it would be the 214, 937.
no, that's just for the police radios. It would be about $55,000 a year
To pay
for 7 years. Yes, ma'am.
Of everything we need.
For all the equipment. That is correct.
And a ranch better hurry up and build some houses. Just saying. Okay, do we need to take, no, we don't need to take action. Do we?
I'm not asking you to take action tonight, but I am asking for a general consensus, because if you are supportive of this, then we will ask the attorney's office to draft a resolution approving the purchase and acquisition of this in the lease terms. There's a contract that we'll have to engage with when we do this. We will bring that back to you at a later date. So if you give me let's work on that. And I'll start working with the attorney's office. If you flat out tell me no tonight, then I'm just going to rush it and put it to the side.
Okay, I'm confused. We don't actually pay for this until fiscal year 25.
October.
Start using them now.
That is correct.
Is that normal? That sounds a little.
That's part of the lease program to get these radios out to the first responders. Yes.
Really?
Yeah. So first payment would not be until October 1st, 2025. October 1st, 2024. Sorry.
What type of warranty or?
I believe the warranty comes on 7 years. Yeah. Yeah.
Certain plans, any of the software or updates that we needed to do, we wanted to make sure that we covered top and bottom, inside and out, with full term of the lease agreement. So they're covered, so there's any guy that the hardware software can come from Motorola, we will have to have any issues with that.
Sweet. I like it. Gets everybody on board at the same time with the same kind of radio.
We can actually take many of our radios too, and we can sell those off. They're worth something. They're not worth this dollar amount by any means, but we can sell those off and get some revenue back for that as well.
Okay, and so why 25 for police?
I have 20 police officers, and then I've got a handful of reserves. And dispatch always needs a couple of handholds in there as well. So it's 25 for all of them.
What was the total you said between fire and police?
25 for police, and I believe you said, is it 10? Yeah, so 35 radios altogether.
So what's the 214,000?
That's for police. That's for the police side.
Fire department, 79,224.
There's two quotes. There's a quote here for the police radios because they're different models. If you've ever seen, you don't have a fire radio on you, do you? Yeah, so the model he's got is a police model. They're the black radios. The fire models, they're red, high vis yellow. The knobs on them are designed to be a little bit bigger, so firefighters are wearing gloves.
Oh, okay.
You control the radio a little bit easier. They also have a harder exoskeleton because they're going into fires. It doesn't melt and drop resistant, those kinds of things. They stand up water resistant.
But I've also seen the green ones, the light green ones also.
Yeah.
The high visibility.
So like 294,000-ish and change?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. I still like it. Yeah, I rounded up. I think we need them. Sounds like a sweet deal. 7 years total maintenance, everything.
Maintenance, warranty, service plan, that's all covered through the whole life of the lease. We want what we pay, we don't have to worry about the radios.
Okay. We'll figure out if I pay for it.
And it does cost about $5,000 a radio. So if we don't approve this, then I gotta figure out where I can beg Steel or borrow some money to buy some radios, because we don't have enough.
String in a tin can doesn't work anymore.
No, ma'am.
Okay.
Radios are expensive, and like I said, like Terry K 911, the funds they used to give out have dried up, so.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's harder and harder to get the money to. It's all based on interoperability, because there's a lot of cities that were still analog, and they were trying to get them to the 800 series, is which we're at now, so. But it's needed, so. So you just need a consensus.
If you would make a consensus to move forward with the attorney's office to draft the resolution to approve.
Yes.
Okay. All right, we'll move forward.
Excellent.
Okay, next time, consideration possible action, item A, ordinance number 800. Ordinance of the City of Everman, Texas, amending the code of ordinances by revising the fee schedule of the city for licenses, permits, or other services of the city that are required by ordinance, resolution, or order, providing that future revisions of the fee schedule shall be permitted by ordinance of the city council, providing that the ordinance shall be cumulative of all ordinances, providing severability clause, providing for publication, and providing an effective date. So it's an action item, so I'll entertain a motion.
Make a motion to approve ordinance number 800 as read.
Second.
Motion made and seconded.
So the only change on this ordinance in the exhibit is the very first item, the certificate of occupancy. Yes, we did just approve a new fee schedule, but there was an error on it. And it's that first item, the certificate of occupancy for residential, we had to set at $50. Our inspection firm charges us $78.60 per inspection. So we need to make sure that we pay for that. So the only change here is raising that from $50 to $80.
Basically a pass-through fee.
Yeah, it's essentially a pass-through fee. But right now we're upside down on that pass-through fee. So we're balancing that out. That's the only change. No other changes.
Any other discussion? Support council.
Place one,
Aye.
place three,
Aye.
place four,
Aye.
place five,
Aye.
place six.
Aye.
Mayor,
Aye.
motion carried.
Okay, next item is executive session. Item A, the city council will convene into close executive session pursuant to Texas Government Code Section 551.071, consultation with city attorney to receive legal advice regarding pending or contemplated litigation to notice of claim related to June 24, 2023 Celebrate America Festival event. The time is 7:22. We're going to executive session.
Look close to him, she looks bigger than he is. His name is Lieutenant Salty Dan. His initials are LSD. So she's calling him Louie, short for lieutenant.
These people driving around.
Emma, we cannot call him initials.
No.
Oh, there's several on that kid.
You know, but in his case.
We'll call it back to order. The time is 7:37, no action taken.
Is your mic on there?
I will call the meeting back to order, time at 7:37, no action was taken. Next item on the agenda is city manager's report.
I really don't have anything for you. Staff is working on getting for school to get back in session, so I know we're preparing for that. We did talk briefly in budget about the school resource officers and that agreement, so I expect to have something coming back from that here in the next couple of weeks. Staff right now is gearing up for our next major events, which will include a National Night Out, which will be the first Tuesday in October, and then Halloween, which will be, of course, at the end of October. I don't think we've got a date set just yet for those. But other than that, I don't have anything else for you right now.
Okay. Next time's mayor's report. The only thing I have is I sent an email to everybody with the city manager's evaluation on it. Just be sure and look at the instructions and have it turned in by the due date. If not, then you'll be at the meeting. So, and once you do, we send it electronically to Jennifer and myself, then I will have printed copies for you to sign next meeting. August 9th, yes.
Okay.
And then we have the meeting on 15th. That's when we'll give Craig his evaluation. And just remember there's sections in there that's mayor only, but if there's something that you got an opinion on, then feel free to fill it out. So that's just based off past evaluations. So, but with that being said, that's all I have. The time is, what's it?
National Night Out is the first Tuesday in October, October 3rd, city council meeting. Are we going to? Okay, just wanted to hear it.
Okay. With that being said, the time is 7:39 and we are adjourned.
Thank you. Write that down right now.